Breaking tonight, a lot happening during this show. Just announced, the president-elect has selected Pam Bondi as the next Attorney General of the United States. I'll read from this announcement from the president-elect. I'm proud to announce former Attorney General of the great state of Florida, Pam Bondi, as our next Attorney General of the United States. Pam was a prosecutor for nearly 20 years, where she was very tough on violent criminals and made the streets safe for Florida families. Then, as Florida's first female Attorney General, she worked to stop the trafficking of deadly drugs and reduce the tragedy of fentanyl overdoses deaths, which have destroyed many families in our country. She did such an incredible job that I asked her to serve as our Opioid and Drug Abuse Commission. During my first term, we saved many lives. Again, he goes on to say she's smart and tough and is America First fighter who will do a terrific job as Attorney General. Again, Pam Bondi from Florida, the next nominee for President-elect Trump, who obviously saw today that Matt Gaetz pulled his name from nomination as the votes were not there on Capitol Hill.
Is this just a confirmation that would essentially sail through, Scott, or not?
Well, I don't think you could consider anybody, just they're going to sail without any kind of real process. She's going to have to go through a process like everybody else. But I can tell you this is a massive upgrade. I've talked to a couple people up on the Hill already. There's a sigh of relief that now we have somebody here, two-term AG, strong record on drug enforcement and opioid issues, a total hawk on immigration, politically supportive of Trump, obviously. I don't know a Republican in the country who doesn't love Pam Bondi. So you were starting with Gaetz, a nominee who was underwater significantly to start and was going to always be hard to get to the surface. With Bondi, I do think you're starting above water, and as long as she performs in her hearings, and look, this is somebody who's been through 2 elections in a really big state, and so a lot of public vetting of her has gone on already. So I think this is a great move by Trump to be pragmatic and tell Gaetz to get out, and a really good move to go with Bondi. This is not a shaky limb. This is a sturdy branch he's going with for AG here.
All right, guys. So I think that the Trump team is playing a little bit of 3D chess, right? I think that is what's going on here, because just hours after Matt Gaetz announced that he would be withdrawing his nomination for Attorney General, President Trump has picked a new nominee, and that nominee is Miss Pam Bondi, who was Attorney General of Florida from 2011 to 2019 when Rick Scott was governor of the state. Now, I'm going to read a little bit about Miss Pam Bondi and why I think that this pick is a great pick, because this honestly might have been the pick, okay? And the Matt Gaetz nomination may have been a litmus test, right? It may have simply been a test to see who are the snakes in the swamp, right? And the snakes revealed themselves to be no other than Mitch McConnell, which is no surprise, okay? And his team of hooligans, Lisa Murkowski, and, the typical swamp monsters, okay? But there are enough swamp monsters to be a thorn in the side to the Trump agenda, right? That has been revealed with the Matt Gaetz nomination. And like I said in my initial reaction video to Matt Gaetz withdrawing, that the swamp better be careful. They may end up with somebody that not only has more experience than Matt Gaetz, but also has the same attributes that the president is looking for in the Attorney General, the same attributes as regards to why he picked Matt Gaetz in the first place, because Matt Gaetz is ferocious. He's a fighter. He's America First. And that's exactly what Pam Bondi is, except she has more experience. Okay. And I actually want to play some clips here of Ms. Pam Bondi, not only from her time as Attorney General, but also from her time defending the president from the impeachment hoax that was waged against him by the Democrats. Take a look.
Well, I was a prosecutor. I was a homicide prosecutor for 18 years. I was Florida's first female Attorney General, and I was special advisor to Donald Trump, Office of White House Counsel, but most importantly, I'm his friend. And I was in that White House, and we all know he surrounded himself with a lot of brilliant women. How many women here tonight support Donald Trump? And backstage, look at these beautiful women sitting behind me. Sorry, guys, in the front row. Donald Trump That was the greatest gift Mark Cuban could give Donald Trump, I think, by saying something so ignorant and stupid. So I have a message for Mark Cuban from all of us here tonight. Underestimate us. This is going to be fun.
These criminals made one very big mistake. They wound up in Polk County. And I'll tell you, it's bad enough in one thing to profit from poisoning others, but it's another when you bring drugs from Mexico into our country, California, Texas, Georgia, and end up in our state and do it with impunity. Because when you're in this country illegally and you're doing things illegally, I want to tell you, and you wind up in Polk County, Grady Judd is going to find you, the DEA is going to help them, and my statewide prosecutors are going to lock you up for as long as we can.
And we're going to enjoy it.
And each of these defendants are looking at 30 years in Florida State Prison for conspiracy to traffic drugs.
Chief Justice, Senators. Senators, you heard our answer regarding that yesterday, but it is very interesting that he said he never spoke to his son about overseas dealings. His son said different things. Joe Biden was the point man for Ukraine, investigating, at the time, Ukrainians were a corrupt company, Burisma, and Zlochevsky, its owner, an oligarch who, by all media accounts we've discussed, was extremely corrupt. Hunter Biden is paid $83,000 a month to sit on that board with no experience in energy, no experience in the Ukraine, doesn't speak the language, and we clearly know that he had a very fancy job description, and he did none of those things. He attended 1 or 2 board meetings, one in Monaco, and then he went on a fishing trip with Joe Biden's family in Norway. The entire time, Joe Biden knows Hunter Biden stays on that board for 3 years. 3 years. Then we hear the video of Joe Biden bragging about firing the prosecutor, linking it to aid. Then we have the 6-minute phone call.
Yeah, so that is Pam Bondi, somebody who has a proven track record of being tough on crime, tough on drug trafficking. She's a hawk on illegal immigration. She also has a record of defending the president, being by the president's side when he needs her the most, and she's competent, right? And if you don't believe me, just listen to MSNBC go into full-blown panic over this pick. Take a look.
Managerial work that anyone would do at any leadership level at DOJ, let alone the top post of Attorney General of the United States. The contrast to Ms. Bondi is she does have that kind of experience, much more traditional than what you would see in a top DOJ post, because she was the top law enforcement official in the state of Florida, and she has over 15 years experience in that role and other roles as a prosecutor. If you remember Kamala Harris running for president and talking about being a prosecutor at the state level, this is that kind of job. And so in that experience, it is much more of a traditional role, something that the Senate Judiciary Committee and others who vet these kind of nominees would see as a positive, as experience.
All right, I completely agree. And quite frankly, my thought is that after Gaetz dropped out, it would be essentially somebody from Trump's legal team. It would be like a Jay Sekulow or somebody like that. I assume that's where he would get these people from. Unlike William Barr, even going back to when we were all kids and like Janet Reno, right? Occasionally attorney generals try to behave like they are not the personal lawyer of the president of the United States. That is completely out the window. Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear, because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
Yeah, and I want to discuss that with a little more depth with both of you, including her record on civil rights, LGBTQ rights, and other issues that are front and center at the DOJ, and which we know were also big campaign issues this cycle. So
will come out. But again, I just think the fact that the Gaetz nomination was literally a shot across the bow, so unorthodox, everything looks kind of normal after that. I mean, that's sort of the danger of a nomination like that. It really does have a normalization effect. In other years, in other administrations, someone like Pam Bondi would have raised a lot of eyebrows, would have raised a lot of questions on Capitol Hill and at the Senate. Now, hard to say, given how completely unorthodox and what the alternative might have been. And, with the prospect of recess appointments looming out here, like something the president might call on the Senate to do, to absolutely abdicate its advice and consent role, I think that's a real fear that she looks plausible. And if we don't go along with it, we might have our entire role completely stripped from us at the behest of the president. And so, again, I think these are not normal times. This is not a normal situation.
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm sold, right? MSNBC sold me, okay? When they came out here and started talking about how dangerous she is, how competent she is, I said, you know what? She's a good woman, right? She is the woman for the job. She may have been the pick, okay? Because as the propagandists were stating on MSNBC, Trump putting up Matt Gaetz kind of is a test, right? It's a test to see how far are the Republicans in the Senate willing to go to confirm Trump's appointments, right? Who's willing to stand against the president and who's not, right? And we can already see that Mitch McConnell and his gang, okay, they are willing to push back. So in the case of Pam Bondi, who, I'm not sure if she would have had any issues getting through the first time around, right? If he had nominated her initially, she definitely is not going to have any issues now, right? Because a lot of them are just going to be relieved that, okay, it's not Matt Gaetz. All right, I guess we can settle for Pam Bondi. Who knows? Again, if she would have been picked initially, they may have pushed back, okay, because of her strong defense of the president, right? They don't like the fact that she has a history of defending the president, and that could be an issue with some of these establishment Republicans, right? They might have an issue with that. So to basically guarantee that he gets the person that he wants, he may have just put up Matt Gaetz as essentially a decoy, okay, and to bring out the knives, okay, see who's against you already, right? See who's willing to play along, and then put up the real nominee, okay? And it's going to be much easier for her to get through, and now the attention is going to be placed on other people like Tulsi and RFK and others. I think that's kind of what the plan was, right? I think that's kind of where the president was going here. And, hey, I think Matt Gaetz will have some other position, right? If he chooses to really leave Congress, right? If he really doesn't want to be in Congress, I think that he will probably help the president in some other way that doesn't require the Senate to confirm him to some cabinet. So, yeah, I mean, it's all good, right? It's all good, okay? I think that she's a great replacement for Matt Gaetz. If anything, she actually has been an attorney general before at the state level. She's definitely somebody that has more experience. Even though she might not be the bulldog that Matt Gaetz is, she's still a bulldog nonetheless. And her experience may actually make her more effective than Matt Gaetz, because there will be a steeper learning curve for Matt Gaetz. Obviously, he's smart enough to overcome that learning curve, but I'm just saying, having somebody with that type of experience already, the one thing they can't say is that she's not qualified, right? They cannot say, well, she's unqualified, right? Which is what they've been saying about all of Trump's appointments, even though Biden's cabinet picks, none of them are qualified for their positions. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.